Hello guys, welcome back to John's workshop, and in this video we're going to be doing something nice and simple. I've got my small rotary table and I've got no T-nuts and clamps for that, and I've got a job that's coming up for that particular unit, so I want to make myself some simple clamps, simple T-nuts for the rotary table. So you can see there, just quick sketch I've done on the board. Some rough dimensions. These may change a little bit as we go through. I'm sat on my nice comfy seat, and hopefully that will be how we start the videos, but it fits in the camera shot well with me sat here, and I can talk around what's on the board nice and easily, so that's worked out well. So I'll bring you back in a moment. I've found a couple of bits of material, just bits of scrap, odds and ends. I think it's all carbon steel of some sort. Don't really know what they've come from, but we'll crack on now. We'll move over to the milling machine and we'll start blocking those out to sizes, and we'll start probably with the T-nuts first, I think, and then move on to the clamps. So I'll bring you back just shortly. So we've got our bit of steel. There's 4 T-nuts in here somewhere. We'll find them. So this was, I think, a parallel. It's not one of my parallels. I think I picked it up from a car boot or something. You can see there's like half a hole that's been drilled in. I think these are tool steel, but they're in a soft state. So decent quality material, but nice and tough, which is for a T-nut ideal. So I've got my parallels in there. I'm just going to skim this bottom face, take the minimum off, and then we'll turn it round and we'll finish them to size. Alright guys, so we've got our block 2 dimensions correct now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to machine all of these out of the 1 bar solid before I split them. So that's the T shape going in, and also the hole's going to go in as well. So what I'm going to do is, this is a tip, I'm going to dust this end off with the end mill. So I'm just going to clean this end up, and I'm going to set my DRO at that point, because this isn't going to move from this setup, so I know I won't have to then come back and touch on that end face to find out where it is. And similarly, when I touch on the side here to mill the two sides out for the T, I'm also going to set my Y-axis on the DRO at that point as well, which means when I come to put the holes in the middle, I've already got my DRO set and I don't need to mess about putting the wobble bar in to pick the part up. So we'll get on with that now. Right guys, we've got our 4 sets of digits, so we're ready to machine the 4 holes in there. Still set up from when I skimmed the end and when I touched on the back, so no more setup to do. So we'll crack on with that now. Right guys, if I had a decent M6 tap, I'd be power tapping this, but being I don't, I'm going to make use of my tap follower and tap wrenches, which are just a pleasure to use. Fantastic. I'll bring you back when I've done them all. Right guys, there's the finished article tapped and a good fit in the T-slot. Happy with that. So next job now is to bandsaw or hacksaw. Not made my mind up yet. I might even hacksaw these for how big they are at the right point in between each of them, and I've left enough room in between each. I've left myself 2.5 mm additional material in between each to cover the hacksaw cut. So I'll just get that marked out now and bring you back once we've cut them. Right guys, to finish these to length, I've machined one end on all of them. We've got one end right to the centre line of the hole to get the overall length right, and that's where the majority of the stock is on these from my bandsawing. What I need to do here, I've been trying to hold them like this in the vise with one at the other end of the vise to balance the vise jaws out. They're not gripping that well, and I think that's something to do with this. Probably this vise isn't brilliant. I've never really done many checks on this. So what I'm going to do is do one at a time, sat on some parallels with a good grip on them, and just sort of deck the top off to get them right. So first time, I've never used my Z-axis DRO on this machine since I put it on. So what I've done here is, and I don't know if you can see that, I've slid my parallel out and I've just lifted my Z up until that just goes underneath. So I know that my cutting tool face is now on the top of that parallel. Zeroed my DRO. I'm going to wind up my 15mm, which is my finished height, re-zero it, and then I can work down in my Z-axis to my zero, one at a time, just to get these right. I did want to set them up with the stop, with the vice stop, using them in the end of the vice like this, but I'm just too wary of doing it. They're just not holding tight enough in this end of the vice for whatever reason. I'm going to need to do some checks on these jaws. We'll take the jaws off at some point and run some checks on them. I think they're slightly tapered, or it's closing slightly tapered or something, so we need to do some checks on it. So to be safe, I'm just going to do one at a time off those parallels. So I'll bring you back when we're doing that. So there we go, 1501, I think 10 microns on a T-nut's more than good enough. I'll get all four done like that and I'll bring you back when we move on to the next bit. There we go then guys, that's got all four of those done and they're a good fit in the T-slots. So I've just deburred them, so that's all four of those, and then I've got this piece of material ready for the clamps. So I'm just going to work out whether we're going to cut the clamps into individual lengths and machine them as one-offs, or whether I've got any stock size to change on this first. Still sort of going through the design. I think this is a bit wide for the clamps that I want, so I might take a small amount of material off the width this way. It's currently 3/4 of an inch, so I'll probably just bring that down a tiny bit. I think they're a little bit wide for what I need, and then we'll probably chop it into 4 separate pieces and machine the clamps up as individual items. We're just finishing these to length now. So I've got my vice stop set, parallels in the vice, just dropping these in one at a time up to the stop, and just working to my DRO. There we go, nice and simple. That's the front bevel done on the front of the clamps. The focus. There we go. So I'll get them all done like that. Then we're going to do a very similar thing, putting the bevels on the sides here at 30 degrees as well. So I'll bring you back when we're doing that bit. Right guys, we're just going to open this out into a slot now in the centre of the clamp. So I've got a 6mm end mill in there, and we need to finish at 6.5, so we're going to open it out and then pitch across 1/4 mil each side to open that out. So we'll do that now. That's 4 T-nuts, 4 clamps, all made. So the next job now is to get these all degreased, and we'll drop them in the chemical black just to give them a bit of corrosion protection. That's got myself some nice clamps and T-nuts for the rotary table, all nicely finished off. So I'm just waiting for some M6 studding to turn up so I can make a couple of 3 lengths of different studs. And then what I'm going to be doing is making a box, a bespoke box for this rotary table to sit in, that's got a foam insert inside, and as part of the box I'm going to make some space for all of these loose parts so that everything stays together. This is the only size T-nut that I've got, T-slot that I've got, this size. So these are dedicated to this rotary table, and I can have them all in the box together so I can't lose any of them, hopefully. So I'll just bring you back and we'll close this episode out. Well, there we go guys, that's the end of another episode. So that's got myself some nice clamps and T-nuts now for the small rotary table. So we'll finish this episode at that. So thank you all very much for watching, thank you for subscribing, and we'll catch you all very soon on another video when we'll be making something else, hopefully with the new clamps and T-nuts that I've just made on the rotary table. Cheers. I still like my nice comfy seat.